guys, how's it going? Today's video is going to be the writing rituals tag. This is an older tag. It was originally created by Mandy Lynn and Kim Chance, one of the OG author tubers. I can link Mandy Lynn's old video, but Kim Chance has long since left YouTube. Her video's been set to private. She is active on Instagram though, and I think she actually had another book come out like within the last couple weeks, so I'll leave her Instagram link down below at least. I did this tag back in 2019. I don't remember any of my answers, but I'm really curious if my writing habits have changed or what stayed the same. So I thought it'd be fun to go through the tag, answer them again, but then also check that old video and see what my 2019 self said. So kind of a tag, kind of a reaction, but I think it's gonna be fun. All right, I moved over to the side so that I can put the video here when the time comes. But question number 1, when do you write? Time of day and day of week. I don't really have a writing schedule or anything, but I do tend to get the most writing done in the nighttime, like after 10 p.m. 3, 4, 5 a.m., that kind of range there. I'm definitely a night owl. That's when I get the most stuff done. That's when I feel most creative. That's when I have the most like brain power for writing. Day of the week doesn't really matter. It more so depends on, oh, Comet's coming to my lap now. Oh, but Comet, you're not tall enough. People can't even see you. Here's Comet. I know. Yes, I love you too. Thank you. The day of the week doesn't really matter. It more so depends on how early I have to wake up for work the next day. Let's pull up what Past Me said though.
Really just any day except Friday. Fridays are mostly my family day and catch up on a bunch of things, and I don't usually write those days, but the other 6 days are up for grabs, I guess. Time of day, usually late at night, so like 1:30 in the morning. I get off work at 1 o'clock, and I like writing after work because I find there's less distractions and less excuses not to write. I find in the daytime I put more pressure on myself to do the more productive things, but at night I can take time for myself and I can just write and not be distracted by everything else on my to-do list because there's nothing to do. It's the middle of the night. So whatever day of the week I can, and usually around like 1:30 or later in the morning.
Okay, that makes sense. I guess my reasoning is still pretty much the same. I like writing late at night because everything else on my to-do list is already done. There's less distractions, there's less expected of me, and I just feel more free, and that mindset is just better for writing. That was when I was working at the call center, so my shifts were quite a bit later. Now I work in a store, so we have more like normal hours, I guess. I'm usually working until 10 p.m. at the very latest. So I do still write after work. After work is just now earlier than it was at the time. So similar mindset, but different circumstances. Question number 2, how do you seclude yourself from the outside world? That's kind of just my natural state. I don't do anything specific. I live alone, I'm not really on social media, I don't tend to text people. It's just me and cats, and there's no secluding yourself from someone this clingy. If I really want to lock in and focus and feel secluded, sorry, Comet, then I'll use the Forest app. If you don't know, it's basically like an anti-distraction app for your phone. You grow cute little trees and you can plant some real trees. It's a cool app. I'll leave it linked down below. But if I'm being honest, that's more of just a mental thing because I don't tend to pick up my phone anyways.
Well, it's usually 1:30 in the morning, so aside from that, I don't really seclude myself that much for writing. I don't mind writing around other people. My real-life writing buddy Tony and I, we write together sometimes, and that's really nice. I don't know, I don't mind having people around. I always have cats around, which is distracting, but great. And I've mentioned a million times, but I watch a lot of AuthorTube write-ins while I'm writing, so there's that kind of social engagement, even though usually I watch them on replay, so they're not live and I can't really participate in the chat, but yeah, I don't know, I've never been someone that needs to seclude themselves when I write.
So yeah, not much has changed there. I'm just naturally secluded. I actually haven't had an in-person writing session with my writing buddy that I mentioned there in a long time, like years. We also just haven't hung out in forever. I haven't really hung out with anyone in forever. And as you saw, same as always, I am always surrounded by cats. Question number 3, how do you review what you wrote the previous day? This is actually something that I am working on right now because I have fallen into the bad habit of rereading too much of what I wrote the previous day. Hi, Comet. And getting distracted with fine-tuning it, tweaking it, just spending a ton of time changing a sentence around back and forth, like to the point that it's a detriment. I don't know what it is, but for the last month or so, I'm just having a really hard time turning off that inner editor. Ideally, I'd be able to just read like a paragraph or two before just to kind of find my place and get into the rhythm and then just write. But it's not going that way right now. I'm working on it, but right now, my strategy is not a good one. I really want to know what my 2019 answer was for this, because hopefully it's a better system and it's something that I can get back to.
So if this is a first draft, what I do is I pretty much try not to look at what I wrote the day before, because I used to fall into that trap a lot and get more stuck on rereading than actually writing new things. So what I do is I just put a little mark in my outline of where I'm at, and then I'll like quickly skim the paragraph that I last wrote and then go from there. If it's revisions, it's different. So for revisions, I usually read about a page before where I'm jumping back in. So I read it kind of going back and going forwards just to make sure that what I'm starting with does still flow with what I'm writing, and to get me just more in the mindset of the story to make sure everything's cohesive. So for new projects, I look at my outline. For revising projects, about a page.
Yeah, maybe I can do that. Maybe I can try to rely less on what I've written, make like a page break or something so it's not right there in my face. I think if I'm being honest, it's more an issue of distraction and willpower maybe, but I'll keep that in mind. Maybe rely more on my outline and less on what I've actually just written. Question number 4. What song is your go-to when you're feeling uninspired? It depends on the story. I don't have like a specific writing song or even type of writing song. Each work in progress has one song that's like its song. I usually try to pick it pretty early on, either in outlining, brainstorming, or the first draft. And it's either a song that I was really into at the time, something with similar vibes, has a specific lyric that I like that just makes me think of a certain scene. Like, there's usually something vaguely tying it to the story. My first novel that I finished, On Fear's Air, it was Fires and Whispers by IMX. But then for my superhero story, it was Superheroes by Ed Guy, so kind of on the nose. And currently for Monsters and Imaginary Friends, it's Hurricane by 30 Seconds to Mars. But I'll intentionally listen to it a lot, especially in the first draft. Like, every time I sit down for a writing session, I play that song at least a couple times first. And then that way it's kind of associated in my brain with that project. So then when I hear that song, I kind of get into that mindset.
I don't really have a go-to song. It really depends on the project and what scene I'm writing. Like, if it's a battle scene, I'll listen to something from Two Steps from Hell. If it's something sad, I'll listen to some sad songs, stuff like that. I don't usually listen to music while I write because AuthorTube write-ins.
So pretty much the same, but I do listen to music a lot more now. I think also, back in 2019, writing sprints used to be a lot shorter. Like, the norm on AuthorTube was definitely like 20 minutes, 25 was the long sprint. Now 45 is pretty standard for the type of sprints that I like to do. So if it's only going to be, you know, like a 10 to 20 minute sprint, I don't usually turn on my music. But if I'm going to be sprinting for like 45 minutes or an hour, I want to have something in the background. But pretty similar. It's not necessarily a song in general, it's a song for a specific moment. And I mentioned there that it depends on what type of scene I'm writing, and that is still kind of true. Like, I have a playlist of just a bunch of songs that give me the mood for that project, and sometimes I'll have different ones for different parts of the story, stuff like that. So, similar. Question number 5. What do you always do, listen to music, read, watch YouTube, etc., when you find yourself struggling with writer's block? It depends on if it's I don't feel like writing writer's block, or I'm stuck at this part and don't know what to do, writer's block. If I'm legitimately stuck, like I don't know where to go next, I don't know how to make this scene work, like there's an actual something that I need to figure out that I can't, what I usually do is I set it aside for a day or two, focus on another hobby, usually reading to kind of keep me in a similar mindset and just have my brain work on it in the background. And then after a couple of days, I sit down and I just stream of conscious journal about it. It's in a second document. I usually don't even save it when I'm done. What the problem is, what's not working, why isn't it working, why do I not want to write it, what is the problem I'm having, and then I just brainstorm like whatever solutions pop into my brain, why they work, why they don't work. And eventually with all of that, I end up coming up with the answer. And it's messy even for stream of consciousness. Like, I'll interrupt myself mid-sentence, I'll have multiple trains of thoughts going at the same time. Like, sometimes I'll have like 3 different paragraphs, and I'll start a thought, think of something else, jump to the next paragraph, write for a little bit, think of a continuation of the original thought, go up there, think of something completely new, go down there. Like, I sometimes will have to color code it because every time I interrupt myself with a brand new thought, I just change the color, start typing, and I'm jumping around there. And then once I come up with a solution, then I'll start typing and kind of explain the solution to myself, break down the problem in a way that's easier to understand. On the other hand, if it's writer's block where I'm just unmotivated, feeling uncreative, something like that, then I just put on a writing live stream. Not usually one that's actually live, I almost always just watch replays, but I love just putting on an old live stream, having that play, sprinting along. Sometimes I'll pause in the middle of, talking or doing something else. I don't necessarily follow it rigidly, but just having it playing in the background is just extra motivational for me, and that usually loosens everything up enough that I can get some writing done.
I don't want to answer I watch AuthorTube write-ins because I've already used that answer a bunch of times, but I watch an AuthorTube write-in. A lot of times I'll go over my outline and figure out why I'm stuck, because I think there's a reason for writer's block, whether it's just I'm tired and my creative energy isn't flowing, or there's a part of my story that I'm stuck at or isn't working. So I try to figure out why I'm stuck, and I'll usually have a write-in that I've already watched playing in the background, so I still have it there and feel like I'm writing with people, but I'm reading my outline and focusing on that. And then I kind of just try to figure out why I'm stuck, what needs to happen, and go from there.
I guess that answer kind of covered writer's block in general, but I knew that was going to be my answer. Writing live streams have always been really, really helpful for me, so I'm not at all surprised that that's the answer. I don't tend to rely on my outline as much nowadays, though. Maybe that's something that I should be kind of focusing on more. I still use my outline, I still rely on my outline, but when I'm feeling stuck, that's not really a tool that I use to get unstuck, and maybe it should be. Question number 6, what tools do you use when writing? I'm not expecting this one to change. I pretty much stick to Microsoft Word. It's my go-to. It's the one I'm most familiar with, the most comfortable with. It does everything I need, but I don't have to learn any extra features or things like that. I think the only other tool that I use would be the website For the Words. Was I using For the Words in 2019? Probably. This might be the exact same answer as last time in that case. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's kind of like a gamification website for writers. So there's an actual word processor on there that you can write in, but there's also quests and monsters that you fight. They each have word counts, or it's like an endurance battle and it's a specific time, and you have to keep typing, and if you stop typing for a certain amount of time, then the timer runs out and the monster gets you, etc. And there's forums and stuff, there's other resources on there that's really helpful. There are a lot of free features on the website, but I have been paying for premium for 6 or 7 years now, I think. Honestly, I love it. I'll leave it linked down below. Another fun thing about For the Words, it's built by a community of writers, and they always have a full month-long event during November. There's certain quests to get 50,000 words. Right now in April, they have an event going on. There's always something cool to keep you interested, so highly recommend that website, honestly.
Lately, I've been using For the Words a lot. I love that website. It has been so exciting and motivational for me. If you don't know, it's basically a video game meets word processor. There's different monsters and quests and stuff, and they have a certain amount of words, and when you hit that amount of words, you beat the monster and you can collect items and beat quests. When it comes to video games, I am definitely a completionist, and quests are super motivating for me, so that website is a huge help. So that is one of my main go-to tools I've been using.
I'm surprised I didn't even talk about Microsoft Word. Interesting. Question number 7. What is one thing you can't live without during a writing session? My water. I get thirsty very easily, and I just don't do anything without a water bottle by my side. It's also my pausing to think habit. It's just my brain takes a deep breath, take a sip of water kind of thing. I just feel completely ungrounded and lost when I don't have a water bottle with me. So if I'm trying to write and my water bottle is not at my desk, I will not be able to focus. I will not be able to think. I know people joke a lot about their emotional support water bottle, but honestly, I don't think I can function without a water bottle. Let's see if it's the same answer.
I'm going to assume this doesn't mean the obvious things like my laptop or a means to write. There's things that I definitely like to have, but I can still write without them. Water. Actually, I have 2 bottles of water right now. I drink a lot of water. That. I really like water. And water's my go-to comfort item. I also drink water if I'm stalling, I guess. If I just need to think for a second and not type, I'll have a drink of water. I also do this in social situations. Like, if I'm feeling really anxious and talking to people, I'll keep drinking water because it gives me a second to not talk. So water is like my go-to comfort thing. So I would say I can't write without water.
That has not changed at all. And I noticed that I had 2 water bottles on the desk right before I pointed it out in the video. Yeah. Question number 8. How do you fuel yourself during your writing sessions? Aside from water, I am definitely a multi-beverage kind of person. I'll usually have an energy drink, which I always water down, so it's like 50-50, because first of all, they're expensive, and that makes it last longer. And also, I don't really like how sugary they are, and I don't like carbonated drinks, so it cuts that down a little bit. And I'll usually have a juice, maybe a chocolate milk, a hot chocolate, a smoothie if it's going to be like a longer writing session and I want something with a little more sustenance to it. On my desk right now, besides my water bottle right there, I have an energy drink and my juice. I don't usually keep snacks at my desk because I'm definitely a mindless snacker. If something is there, I'm just going to pick at it without even noticing. And that just feels wasteful. If I'm not even noticing that I'm eating it, why am I eating it? But if I am particularly in the mood for something, then I'll go to the kitchen and I'll grab it and I'll have it at my desk. But usually it's mostly beverages.
Water. If you mean more like food type things, sometimes I'll have some snacks on the go, but not usually. Usually it's just water. Sometimes I have an energy drink, but I don't usually drink it. It's just on my desk so that if I do want it, I have it. But that doesn't really count, so I'm not drinking it. So I don't know, maybe sometimes I have like some chocolates or I'll be eating supper at the same time, but usually water.
That's a good point. I do that a lot. As I just showed, that energy drink is not open. I made a good point there though about supper. I do usually eat supper while I'm writing. Not necessarily on purpose, just I usually eat at my desk anyway. Because again, I live alone and I tend to eat not necessarily smaller meals, but simple meals. Like I don't have a lot of different components to my meals. It's all just one plate, one bowl, whatever. So I just come eat at my desk and I'm usually just having supper while I'm writing. And finally, question number 9. How do you know when you're done writing? I don't. Honestly, I usually just keep writing until I get distracted by something else and then I'm not writing anymore. Or I'll kind of multitask. I'll jump between my writing and whatever else I'm doing until eventually I'm just doing the other thing and I've kind of just stopped writing for the day. I do that a lot when I'm watching wrestling. I'll start watching wrestling, but I'll still have my writing open in the background. During commercial breaks, I'll just switch to the writing. And then sometimes I get really into the flow with writing, so I'll pause wrestling and just write. And then I'll kind of get to a good stopping point, so then I'll start watching again, and then I just kind of jump back and forth. And especially because I write so late at night, I usually just have my writing up, and I just kind of get to it if and when I get to it until it's time to go to bed. And that's when I'm done because I'm going to bed.
Usually I have some sort of time limit in mind when I sit down. It depends on what else I have to do, how tired I am, what time I have to get up in the morning, because like I said, I usually write after work and then I usually go to bed shortly after, or if there's other things that I want to do. So usually I'll either set a timer for that amount of time, or I'll have a word count in mind that I'd like to hit before that time, and then usually I'll just finish off the flow of whatever I'm writing, whether that's a scene or like something that I'm just finishing it off, and then I always start the next scene or the next chapter. I cannot end at the end of a scene because it makes it so much harder for me to jump back in the next day. Even if it's just a couple sentences of the next chapter, having that little bit of a starting place, hey Comet, is super helpful for me. I know I'm finished writing when I hit either my goal or my time limit, finish off that scene, and then start another one.
That's not something I usually do anymore, actually. Not for any particular reason. I just don't usually think of it, like picking either a stopping point ahead of time, a word count goal, something like that. Sometimes I'll think, okay, I have to go to bed at this time, so I'm going to write until this time. But I don't usually think like, okay, well, I'll go to bed after I hit 1,000 words or after I finish this scene. I think that right now, with my writing, I'm kind of just in a go with the flow kind of mindset. And that's probably not going to work for me forever. Eventually, I'm either going to lose the motivation and need to actually push myself a little bit more, or have specific goals and try to actually push them and not just be so casual about it. So that's interesting. I'll definitely think of that and maybe try to reincorporate that if and when I need it. And that was the last question. It's interesting how many things have stayed the same. I knew there wasn't going to be drastic changes, like I know that I've never been an early morning writer, so of course I still write at nighttime. But the little things, like little details, little changes, were interesting. All in all, I'm really glad I did this tag. I'm really glad that I watched my old tag. I just had so much fun. And like I said, the questions are all in the description, so if anyone else wants to do this tag, if you do, please let me know. I'd love to check it out. But in the meantime, that is all for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, please hit the like button to let me know, and subscribe to stay up to date with the rest of my videos. I post new videos once a week, usually reading or writing related. So I hope to see you guys next time, and until then, have a great day. Bye!